Did I accidentally curse my entire audience with yesterday's episode? You're being possessed. You're like, yes, you did. Ah! Tell you about some weird experiences I had after recording that. And then we travel to the United Kingdom to take a look at the story of a young woman making her way through life. She has all the trials and tribulations that the rest of us have. But when she has a chance encounter with a psychic, this young woman realizes her life is about to change forever in the darkest ways possible. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.
Actually, I'm a lot freaked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. If you're preparing for the Thanksgiving holiday, save me some leftovers. Save me some leftovers. I'm going to visit everyone's house astrally Thanksgiving night and eat some stovetop stuffing. But while I'm eating all the stovetop stuffing, everyone else get on your feet and give it up for today's Patreon supporter, September 2024 Catface. Woohoo! Yeah, wee! Yeah, this Catface is running on in. I'm running away so I can eat more stovetop stuffing. You're like, Jason, why don't you eat like normal stuffing? Like homemade stuffing, because it's gross. I've had homemade stuffing. There's always like huge chunks of celery or like cranberries in it. I don't want that. I want the stuff in the box. I'm a box boy. That's the type of guy I am. This is my Thanksgiving. I'm not saying this to be depressing either. I like this Thanksgiving. People always get so depressed when I say this. I have a Stouffer's microwavable meal of turkey. You're already all like all crying. You're like, oh man, maybe we should send him some leftovers. No, this is what I like. I have a Stouffer's Thanksgiving turkey meal. It's not Thanksgiving. It's just regular turkey meal. You can buy it anytime. And then I have a bag of instant potatoes. It's just like potato flakes that you mix with water. I love it. I'm not saying this to gather sympathy. I enjoy this. I'm looking forward to it. Add some water. I don't put milk in it, too. I don't put milk in a lot of stuff. I just throw in some water. Imagining like watery potatoes and a Stouffer meal. You're like, Jason, you know you can put that Stouffer meal in the oven. It will taste better. Just put it in the microwave. Making some mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes. I microwave those as well. And then I also have a big box of stovetop stuffing. Pour the bag in, throw in some butter, throw that in the microwave. Voila! I have all of my Thanksgiving food. I have the stovetop stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the turkey. So you're like, how do I join this guy's Patreon again? I think he needs money. I don't need money. I really enjoy this food. But September 2024, Catface recently boosted the Patreon Discord server. So I really appreciate that. I know that costs money. So I really appreciate that. September 2024, Catface. We'll just call you Catface for short going forward. Catface, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, if you guys can't support the merch store or the Patreon or anything like that, I totally understand. I really, really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Catface, let's go ahead and toss you the handlebars for the bunny bicycle. Everyone climb on board this fun little wheeled ride. I don't know how else you would describe a bike. Everyone climb on board the bike. We're going to jump up on the handlebars as Catface drives us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to an old house on the edge of town. Wicka, wicka, wicka. Wicka, wicka, wicka. He's pedaling as fast as he can all the way out to an old house at the edge of town. Now, a lot of you guys listen to the episodes the day they come out. And I'm really appreciative of that. That actually really helps with like sponsorships. And it really helps with ad revenue just because it shows how hot the show is, right? And then we can package it and say, hey, we get X amount of downloads like within the first 24 hours. If you don't listen to it right when it comes out, that's totally fine as well. But I know a lot of you guys do. I see the download numbers. I see them spike up in that first 24 hours. Totally awesome. But if you listen to the episode last night or today, you may notice there's a bit of a difference in the title of the episode. If you listen to it last night or today, the episode was titled, What's Wrong with Monica? I think is what I ended up calling it, or What Happened to Monica. Let me double check. Well, I changed the title, but What Happened to Monica was the name of the title. And you probably listened to it and you're like, oh, that's a pretty decent episode. But now, if you go back, your eyes are bleeding. You're like, oh, what's happening to me? Your hands are clawing at your own flesh, trying to rip your heart out. If you go back and look at it, now I've added a cursed episode title disclaimer to it. So now the name of the episode is Cursed Episode, What Happened to Monica? Because I think that episode might have been cursed. Let's break it down like this. So, I didn't know it at the time, right? If I thought it was cursed at the time, I would have given you guys a heads up. You're all, skin's boiling. I really love the show, but, the occasional curse that Jason unleashes. Yesterday I was real busy. I got off work. I came home, recorded that episode around 6-7 p.m., edited it, which takes about 2 hours, an hour to record it, 2 hours to edit it, and I ended up posting it around 10 p.m. People started downloading it. I stayed up pretty late last night. Usually if I have a late work day like that, like I'm working on the episode until 10, 11 p.m., that happens from time to time, not all the time, but I was planning on staying up late, so I was kind of like looking for stuff to watch. I was watching some stuff on YouTube. I put in this movie called Marionette about a little boy who, if he drew pictures, it would cause the future. It was this horror movie about this psychiatrist who gets teamed up with this little boy, and he keeps drawing pictures of all of her friends dying. She's like, after my fifth friend died, I should have taken those crayons away from him. No! What's he drawing this time? It's a very slow-paced horror movie. And I realized that I slept through most of it. Slept through probably about 75% of it. So when I woke back, but it was on and off sleeping. At this point, it's maybe about 1 a.m. in the morning. I'm watching the movie and I'm just so tired. I can't focus on the movie. So I'd wake up and I was intrigued by the movie's premise, so I would kind of rewind and go, oh, what happened there? Oh, okay, yeah. He drew a picture and somebody died. I guess I could have figured that out. Didn't need to rewind that. And I am getting unusually sleepy for me. Like, I stay up late all the time. Any opportunity I can stay up till like 1 or 2 a.m., I'll take it. Because I actually am a night owl. And I'm a morning person as well. I usually only get maybe 5 hours of sleep a night. This night I felt particularly drained. I didn't think anything of it because I did have a long day. And people get tired. Watching the movie, it's a slow-paced movie. That might be making me more tired, whatever. So anyways, around 2, I slept through the ending of the movie. I was like, what, huh? Why? Just watching credits? I was like, I guess he probably drew more pictures. And they stopped him somehow. I got up and I went into the bedroom. I was watching all that in the living room. I went into the bedroom and pull out my phone. I'm reading my celebrity gossip. At this point, it's like 2:30. And you think about the amount of episodes I record, right? 5 a week, 10 stories a week. Some of the stories are kind of creepy. Some of them are kind of funny. Most of them are kind of dark in one way or the other. But I remember when I was walking into my bedroom light doesn't work right now. The bulb's out. And it's too high for me to change. So I need to buy a ladder to change a light bulb. But then I was like, where am I going to store the ladder? So pretty much for the past month, I haven't had any light in my bedroom. So I'm just kind of walking around. You're like, Jason, now I am depressed. You're eating stovetop stuff and you think that's the best. You have no light in your bedroom. I was able to hook up a lamp, but the problem is it's behind the door, so I got to kind of like go behind the door. I was like, I'm not even going to do that. I got to keep reaching behind the door. What I'll do is I'll throw my phone into the bedroom, so I'll see the light of my phone, then I can know where stuff is at, because it's that dark in there. And I do that all the time. It's not like a big issue, but I remember this time when I threw my phone into the bedroom, and I'm looking at that small blue display sitting on the mattress. I had a weird feeling, a feeling that I hadn't had before. I thought, is there something in my bedroom? Like, that thought popped in my head, and in a moment, like, this was my imagination, this wasn't real, but I imagined, because I threw my phone into the bedroom and I watched it land on the mattress, I could see the blue light of the display, and I thought, what if I saw someone walk in front of it right now? What if I saw, like, the blackness of someone moving between me and the telephone light? And I just see it black out for an instant, and then it's gone. And it wasn't so much that it popped in my head, what if someone moved in between me and the light? The thought was specifically, what if I see a girl, like the form of a girl, walk past me and the phone, so I could see, like, her dress moving. It's all pitch black in my room, but if something pitch black was moving through it, it would briefly block the light of the phone. It was just my imagination. It didn't happen, and I do have a pretty vivid imagination, but I could also tell there was something different about this. Now, I guess I should say this, too, to reiterate the cursed episode. I'm not going to tell the whole thing, because I don't know which part is cursed, but yesterday's episode was about a young couple and their cat who moved into a house that was over 100 years old. They'd been living there for over a year, but just back in May of 2024, this paranormal activity had started to really ramp up. So much so that towards the end, at this point we're talking September, October, the young woman who lived in that house, she began to see the form of a girl around 4 or 5 years old wearing all black with long black hair, and the girl was soaking wet, so water was just kind of dripping off of her clothes and her hair onto the floor of the living room or around the house. Drip, 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 drip. Drip, 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 stuff like that, right? Sorry, my neighbor's losing his mind next door, so if you hear him talking, I have no control over that. We're just going to have to deal with that in the background. That's not a ghost. I'm not going to wait, whatever. So anyways, drip, drip, drip. This girl wearing this black dress with long black hair, and her skin was a pale gray blue. The color of decomposing flesh. And a lot of times, when a body's in the water too long, we'll get that type of color. Pale gray blue flesh. And I did the story like I do 100 different stories. There was one difference in that story that I kind of had a hard time dealing with. And that was that I had a hard time understanding the geography of the house. I really had to simplify some of the logistics. She kept saying we were on this floor, then we were on this floor, and this, that, and the other thing. I kind of I left a lot of those specific details out as far as what floor they were on for most of the story, but I remember when I was initially reading the story, I would get perplexed at times. And I thought it was because I wasn't keeping track of the geography of the house, but now I'm wondering if there's something else on this story. I should also say the person who posted this, they haven't posted anything since. They've been completely offline as far as we can tell. So the idea was, did this spirit come into her house and did it take her over? Did it kill them? We don't know. I mean, this is a story. It took place someplace in America. I mean, obviously, if a ghost killed people and a cat, it might make the news. But if it was to say the ghost caused the fire or the ghost caused some sort of poisoning to happen, you wouldn't know it was a ghost. Or did the ghost actually inhabit the body of Monica? Because at one point, Monica was having these dreams of the girl sucking her soul out. So, hence the title, What Happened to Monica? Because she's gone. And even if she did reappear online, you'd wonder, is it really her? Or is this ghost now part of her? Did it possess her? I remember when I was reading it, because a lot of times I got to read these stories a couple times to get my notes. I was getting, not confused is the wrong word. Like, I don't want to go so far to say uneasy. But there was something about it. I had this weird hunch when I was reading it, and I go, I had a weird hunch, but I didn't know what the hunch was. Just something felt off. But I figured it was just because I had a hard time following the narrative because of the different locations of the living room and the reading room and the bedroom and all this stuff. I think it's just that. I think I'm just a little perplexed. I typed my notes up. I do the story. I thought it came out really well. And now it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm going into the bedroom, and I just get this feeling that there's something in there. Not just that there's something in there, but there's something like waiting for me. But I talk about scary stuff all the time, and I do get scared. Actually, no, that's not true. I mean, I get scared about other stuff. I may watch a movie, but there's really only been a few times doing this podcast where I've covered a story that has scared me. The best example of that was the Michael Taylor episode, which is a true crime story involving demonic possession. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it scared me. Like that night I had a hard time sleeping out of all the stuff I've covered, and I've covered some crazy supernatural and some pretty grisly true crime stuff. This one had a Michael Taylor story. It gave me nightmares. Anyways, I go into my bedroom. I'm on my phone now, which is funny because that's what the character in yesterday's story kept doing. She kept staying on her phone late at night. And it seemed to almost be accelerating. I just put that together. I just thought of that. I'm laying there in bed, and I'm on my phone, and I cannot stay awake, which is unusual for me. But it is 2:30. I figure I'm just getting tired. I'm laying on my side, and I'm holding my phone, and I'm reading celebrity gossip. And I'm forcing myself to stay awake. I was like, I need to know about Ashton Kutcher and P. Diddy. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio, are you part of this madness as well? Reading all of this celebrity gossip, and then I hear a noise from behind me. Room's pitch black except for my phone. I'm on my side facing the wall. And behind me, I hear something fall and hit the ground. And it completely wakes me up. The drowsiness is gone. It completely wakes me up. I heard something fall off a shelf or a windowsill behind me and hit the ground. And I'm in the dark. My phone's not in my hand anymore. And I roll over to see if there's anything behind me, but it's nearly pitch black. You got a little light coming through the window. And I think in my head, did I put, because I was like in my sleepiness, did I put my phone on my windowsill, which I will normally do? And then it fell off and I forgot about that because I know I don't have my phone and I heard something fall behind me. But then I realized that my phone is on the opposite side of my bed and it fell in between the bed and the wall. Because I see a little blue light coming out from that crack between the bed and the wall. So I heard the sound behind me, but my phone is in this crevice in front of me. And I'm completely awake at this point, and I assume that I dropped my phone, and I dropped my phone because I was so tired, and then I heard it behind me for some reason. That's all I could think of. I don't think there was something behind, nothing behind, because I checked, nothing off the windowsill fell. I checked that the next morning. I must have dropped my phone into the crevice, and I was so tired, I heard the sound from a different part of the room. And this is funny because we cover stories where people do this all the time. They experience weird events, not necessarily paranormal, but we will go through mental gymnastics to make it make sense, even though that doesn't make sense. If you drop the phone in front of you and you hear the phone behind you, and there's probably about 8 feet between those two. I got a big bed, here's this place, here's the other side of the bed, all this stuff. Maybe 6 feet, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a good enough distance. You don't drop stuff in front of you and hear it behind you. But I told myself that. So to make a long story short, because I know this is going on a little too long, longer than I thought it was, we're going to have to cut a story. I know you guys hate that, but like basically, Jason, you're telling us about the story we heard yesterday and how you imagined, like you didn't see a ghost. How's this? Well, let me finish. All that stuff happened, and you could chalk it up to 100 different things. Like I said, overactive imagination. I don't understand how I could hear the sound in one place and it happened to the other, but I was, barely awake. Who knows? But I'm always up that late. The fact that I was so tired, I also kind of, I don't know. I mean, I can't argue that. Even though I often stay up till 1 in the morning, I can't say because I was up till 2, I was extra tired, and that's spooky. Eventually, I do fall asleep, though. End up having a confounding, perplexing dream. And I really can't remember much of it. But what I do remember is a lot of my dreams have narratives in them. They're story-driven, multiple characters, settings, things like that. This dream was all about concepts. Like, the dream itself, it was concepts and abstract ideas. And that's the best way I can put it. There's no rhyme or reason to anything that was going on. It was just a dream of ideas. Abstract thoughts. Those aren't the type of dreams that I have. And the dream goes on, and then what happens, and I didn't realize this until I started recording this segment, it's another creepy thing about it. What happens is while I'm waking up in that mode, someone's talking to me in the dream. Someone's saying something to me in the dream as I'm waking up. And I can almost feel my body shifting from unconsciousness to consciousness, because as I'm waking up, there is somebody talking to me, and I don't know who they were. I don't know what they said. But if you listen to yesterday's episode, I did not think about this until I started recording this segment. I didn't think about it last night for sure. That's what happens in that story. A woman, the main character Monica, is slowly waking up and she starts to hear someone calling out to her. And that wakes her up, and then she has this terrible ringing ear thing. Her ears are ringing, the light's flickering on and off. Her senses are being overloaded. That happened in that story. In my dream, as I was waking up, someone began speaking to me, and before that, it was really just a dream. Before that, it was really just a dream of concepts. There's no dialogue, no settings, anything like that, which is very unusual for me. And I didn't know what the voice was saying. I didn't recognize the voice, but I felt something was going to happen, something bad. I woke up and immediately began to vomit. Vomit might be too strong of a word, but I began to spit up stomach acid. And I start getting a little choked on the stomach acid, and I rolled over, and luckily my dirty clothes hamper is next to my bed, so I managed to spit up a bunch of bile all over my dirty clothes. I just kind of let my head hang there for a moment, because more was coming out, but it was dripping out. It was all around the sides of my mouth, and it was slowly but surely dripping out. I know a lot of people love to eat while listening to this podcast. Throughout the day today, what I've noticed is things are falling over a lot, which is one of my big pet peeves. I hate it when things fall over or fall on me. And you go, Jason, I mean, are you the road runner? How often does that happen? Well, I have a cluttered house, so constantly stuff is falling on me. So stuff's falling in my house today. You go, well, Jason, we've seen photos of your house. You have piles of things. Hope you washed your clothes. Hope you immediately washed your clothes when you woke up. Got all that bile off of your dirty clothes. Things falling, little things. There's always one thing at a time today. But what's interesting, what makes that more notable is in my bathroom, I, have a pile of stuff. And a lot of times these piles will never be moved. I shouldn't say never, but basically they were formed at one time for one reason, and then they're not moving. Earlier today, and I haven't felt well all day today. I haven't felt well at all day today. Earlier today, I was going to the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, and you're like, oh, right, I'm going to eat these chocolate donuts. Ooh, yummy, a chocolate bar. Wait, what did he say he was doing? I was sitting on the toilet, was on my phone, and I hear a... And I go, what the hell is that noise? It's not coming from my body. And there was a rubber cleaning glove that I used maybe like a week or two ago, probably about 2 weeks ago when I was scrubbing out my toilet. I hear a... And I watched that rubber cleaning glove slowly unfold itself and then just hang there from the little table in my bathroom. And what's unusual about that is that I haven't added or subtracted anything from that pile for a week. So why did the glove pick today to unravel? Now, what's interesting about all of this is that if you take them as separate events, none of it's paranormal. The glove unraveling, the stomach bile throwing up, the weird dream, the hearing the noise in a different place in the room where I dropped the phone. None of this stuff is paranormal if you look at it separately. If you look at it collectively, it's still not paranormal. It's still a series of events that, had they unfolded, even if all of them happened on a different day, I may not have thought anything of it. It's the story of a sleepy boy with a tummy ache, right? I do have stomach acid reflux things. I normally don't wake up spewing out bile, but I'm not going to say I've never done it. We have a rubber glove unfolding. We have items just kind of falling randomly around the house. All of these things taken separately or even put together, none of it screams out paranormal. None of it screams out creepy, possessed girl is now in my house. But there's just enough, see? That's the thing. I had a hunch when I was reading the story that there was something wrong, and I thought it's just the geography. I'm just having a hard time making sense of the story. And even that dream I had last night, it was perplexing and confusing, but it was also it was nerve-wracking. I don't want to go so far as to say terrifying, but very unsettling in the dream. But I couldn't put my finger on it why it unsettled me. I just had a hunch that there was something else in the background of that dream. And even today, with all of the stuff that happened last night, and the items falling around today, nothing screams paranormal. I just have a hunch. And that hunch was enough for me to change the title of that episode. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it on today's episode, because like I said, thousands of you listened to the episode last night when there was no cursed warning. Thousands of people go, oh, no episode of Dead Rabbit Radio, I'm going to check it out. Whether it's on your podcast app. Some people still listen on YouTube, but not most people listen to it there. Listen on their podcast app. They listen on the Patreon. They listen to it all these different places directly off the website. There was no cursed episode warning. And I felt like if you had listened to that episode, you should hear this one as well. I'm not saying your house is going to be haunted. I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen, but I just have a hunch that there may be something more to that story. And if there is something going on, it's better to know. Like, imagine that you also had a very weird day after listening to that episode, and you didn't know why. It was just a bunch of weird events. Because what's interesting is that also parallels the story. The stuff she was experiencing that she told us about seeing the cat in two separate places, about looking like someone sat down on the couch, all of that stuff, I wonder how many much more minor events happened, because it took place over the period of months, that she went through. Or that Paul went through, her boyfriend, and he wasn't even talking about it. Times when things were falling off shelves. Times when they were having physical illnesses, things like that. That you wouldn't put in if you were trying to focus on the main things, the things you thought were truly paranormal. So I thought I'd share that with you, just in case anyone else is suffering from that. Hopefully not. I mean, again, Like, if anything, I would think the stomach bile was me rejecting what was ever there. It may have tried to do something last night. The thing is that I believe that my spiritual protection, my spiritual armor is pretty rugged. Because, I mean, you can't be too overconfident with this stuff, but I think I'm pretty well protected. I think my faith protects me. I think my God protects me. And I think I have, enough under my belt that I've built up a little bit of resistance to these things. But, when you deal with the paranormal, one of the worst things you can be is overconfident in your abilities, because these things can try to get in that way too. So I wanted to share that story with you. It may just be a 20, 30-minute long story about a guy who had a stomach ache because he stayed up too late and dropped his phone, or it could actually be something else. I don't know for sure, but I have a hunch. That it might have been something else. Crazy stuff. And I apologize, I said that Patreon's name incorrectly earlier. 5 September 2024, Catface. Let's go ahead and touch the keys of the world. Famous Carpenter Copter. We are going to leave behind the old house on the edge of town. That's where yesterday's story took place, and my place as well, because that was where the addendum took place. Catface, why don't you fly us all the way out to the United Kingdom? And again, a quick reminder, tomorrow, Thanksgiving is going to be November 28th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time till 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be doing our annual Thanksgiving live stream on YouTube. If you guys want to come and chat, you're like, watch out, there's a little girl behind you. I'm like, you're making stuff fall on me. If you want to come out, ask questions, talk, be part of the discussion, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. I'll put the link in the show notes. And then we will take that episode, a crisp, clean, cool audio version of that will be available later that day. If you missed the live stream, you'll be able to listen to it on that day's podcast release. And then we'll be back on Monday with new stuff. We're headed all the way out to the United Kingdom. We're going to meet a young woman. She didn't give her real name. We're going to call her Tracy. The year is 2009. We're headed 15 years into the past. 15 years ago, Tracy was out walking with a friend, just casually strolling down the street, when a stranger approached them. And this stranger identified themselves as a psychic. I can see through the veil. I can see it all. Everything. You, young lady, you've had some illnesses in your life, haven't you? Tracy's like, yeah, how did you know? How did you know a human could get sick every once in a while? The psychic goes, just a guess. Also, when you were a kid, some crazy things happened to you, didn't they? Tracy goes, wow, yeah, amazing. How did you know that? Now, it might sound like I'm kind of taking the piss out of the story. It actually becomes quite terrifying. I think I would have, if I was walking down the street, I mean, obviously, I interact with psychics on a fairly regular basis in my personal life. I know some. I think that, I believe that psychic phenomenon is possible. I do think some people are psychics. But I also think that some psychics are flim-flam artists. But I also think I feel that way about a lot of people. I think that there's a lot of lawyers who are scam artists. I do not trust accountants. I have a really, really hard time working with accountants. I'm always afraid that they're going to rip me off. I think that you could look at most professions. There's a firefighter. He's like, I'm the guy who starts the fires. Well, actually, every so often you do come across one of those guys. I don't think every accountant is a thief. I don't think every lawyer is a scam artist. I don't think every firefighter is a firebug. But there's just enough in the news from time to time. There's just enough, maybe even from personal experience, that if I was walking down the street and someone came up to me and told me they were psychic, immediately I'm going to have my defenses up. I'm going to think this person's going to want money from me. And Tracy doesn't go into specifics, but she says this person approached me, told me she was psychic, and began to tell me stuff about my childhood, and also began to talk about things that other people didn't really know about, like illnesses, but also the fact that Tracy had had miscarriages in the past. Tracy was completely convinced that this psychic was real. So much so that she felt paralyzed by it. These revelations that were coming at her. And she was just out walking with a friend. All of a sudden, the psychic's revealing this personal information. Saying these things that only Tracy knew. She was paralyzed so much that her friend had to lead her away. Up until this point, Tracy did not believe in psychics. She did not believe in psychic phenomenon, the ability to see into the past or see into the future, telepathy, anything like that. But after this moment, she was so convinced, she began to believe some people might actually have psychic powers. A few weeks afterwards, Tracy's home alone watching television when she sees a man standing in the backyard. He's standing in the backyard looking through one of the windows. And Tracy, this might raise some alarm bells. You're like, oh no, it's an accountant. He's here to steal from me. This might raise a couple of alarm bells. However, she goes, the way that this guy was dressed, he wore a hoodie. He's standing at the back window there. She thought it was one of her boyfriend's friends. Didn't really think anything of it, because who else would be standing in your backyard looking in your window late at night? She walks over to the window and she says, "What are you doing out there? What's going on?" The man doesn't answer. And at this point, Tracy's close enough to the window that she can't really see his face. He's wearing a hoodie, but it's pulled down enough to hide his face, plus it's dark outside. Just figures it's one of her boyfriend's friends, not a big deal. So about 4 steps away from this window is the door that leads into the backyard. So Tracy, says something. The window's closed. She says something. She figures he doesn't hear it because, the window's closed. I'll just go to the back door. I'll open it up and see what's going on. She walks over. She opens the door. She steps out, looks into the backyard. It's completely empty. Her boyfriend's friends may swing by at odd times, but they're not known to vanish into thin air. She's terrified at this point. She figures not so much that this is something paranormal going on, but only a rapscallion would hide if you tried to get a closer look at him. That's not something that one of her boyfriend's friends would do. So it could be a real threat. She looks out in the backyard. She doesn't see anyone. She gets terrified. She slams the back door shut. She looks over back towards the window, which again is only 4 steps away from the door. They're so close. She looks back at the window. She sees the man standing in the backyard, still staring into the house. He hadn't vanished. He was there the whole time. She just couldn't see him when she stepped outside. The man then began to loudly laugh. And Tracy felt her body buckle. She collapsed to the floor and began to slowly crawl away. Since that night, which again happened 15 years ago, since that night, Tracy says her life has been in a downward spiral. What she started to notice was that all of her relationships began to just crumble. Her friendships, ties with her family, romantic relationships, all of these things began to just dissolve, but she said it happened in weird ways. in unexplainable ways. She couldn't really describe why, but just everything felt off after this night. And she had a really hard time forging any bonds with anyone or keeping those that she already had before this night stable. Her social life really began to suffer. That's bad enough. You almost feel like you're being excluded from society and you don't know why. Everyone knows the punchline to a joke, but you don't even realize you're in a comedy club. You're just separate. Not only that, she has had debilitating health problems since then. The number one of which is intense and long-lasting pain. She says, I'm in such pain all the time I haven't been able to work. It's affecting my mental health. It's definitely affecting my physical health. It's affecting my financial health, the ability to hold down a job. None of these things were factors before this night. Before this night, while her life wasn't perfect, it was definitely better than it is now. She says, not only do I suffer from chronic pain and other health ailments, not only do I have a hard time having any semblance of a social life, even something as basic as a friendship, she will hear, while she's trying to fall asleep, the sound of someone stomping around her bed. And the fact that she said, she goes, it's like I'm laying in bed and I hear someone stomping around the bed as if she's being guarded. Or a more apt word would be patrolled. Something there is not trying to protect her, it's trying to keep her there. It's trying to keep her in place. You could chalk up the chronic pain to a whole host of health ailments. You could even chalk up the social disintegration to, just growing up, growing older, not having the same interests as people move on and things like that. I mean, again, it's so pervasive with her. She obviously can tell that it almost feels like something coordinated's going on. But she does. I mean, this is someone who didn't really believe in psychics up until a couple weeks before all of this started. Now she's facing what she believes is a paranormal foe. She's found herself over the years figuring if it's a paranormal foe, if it's a spiritual energy, then I need to use spiritual tactics to block it. And she's found herself going to church. And she's not a churchgoer at all. Her rationale, she goes, if this is a demon or a spirit, and that exists, then God must exist. God must exist if the demon can exist. So she finds herself going to churches, and she says, I've tried this multiple times over the years. I go into a church, and I can't stay there. She goes, I'm there for a very short amount of time, and then I begin to uncontrollably sob. Tears streaming down her face, mournful wails echoing through the chapel. People are getting married that day. They're like, oh, it wasn't actually open as a church today, but you're allowed to come in. She's still sobbing. She's sobbing uncontrollably. And when she leaves the church, Tracy says, I go in there and it doesn't happen immediately. I'll sit there for a bit and then all of a sudden I'll start to get worked up. I'll start to cry and then it becomes just this deep and mournful wails, just sobbing openly. So I'll get up and leave, and I'll leave the church, and almost immediately after I walk out of the church, I stop crying. So she is able to put two and two together. I think even the most ardent skeptic in this situation, which she was skeptical before all of this started. I mean, like, you could go, ghosts don't exist, demons don't exist, all of this stuff, but if you found yourself sobbing in church, you could be like, oh, this is just a really sad sermon. They're doing this thing that's really sad. That's why I'm uncontrollably sobbing and nobody else is. Oh, the Noah's Ark, only 2 animals get saved. Oh, what happened to their kids? Boo. Even if you were a skeptic all the way here, if you stepped out of the church and you immediately stopped crying, you'd have to go, okay, listen, eventually You got to look at the cause and effect of something. The scientific method. She ends her post saying this. I thought this was a great story to combine with the one we just did. She goes, quote, I might just be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 8. Right? Which is true, because that's kind of what we just talked about. Everything I named, you could chalk up to all sorts of stuff in my personal story. You go, that's not paranormal at all. And that's what she's kind of thinking of too. She goes, maybe I'm just adding up. She's saying, quote, I might just be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 8, but I'd like some opinions, advice. Where on earth in the UK can I turn to? I feel like if I actually speak this, I'll get accused of being out of my mind and locked away. Unquote. Interesting, because that's partially true. It depends on who she talks to for sure. But if you did say, oh, I'm having this problem or that problem because of this ghost in the backyard, because of the psychic showed up and she was telling me all this stuff, and I think she's implying that the psychic opened the door, not physically. Unfortunately, she physically opened the door, Tracy, but none of this stuff. She had no paranormal events up until the psychic. Then a couple weeks later, she saw this man, and it's been bad ever since. And if you told somebody that, there is a chance, depending on who it is, like I said, that they may think you've gone mental. If you talk to a spiritual leader, you're probably going to get more of a spiritual answer. One thing that I was thinking about when I was reading the story is I wonder all the stuff people leave out. Like if she is having like intrusive thoughts about dark desires, or she's tried to destroy it or hurt herself or something like that. Like I wonder how many times, because you wouldn't say that stuff online. You might tell a counselor that, or you may never tell anyone that. But you definitely wouldn't write it online. That's a little bit too, makes you too vulnerable. But with the information we have to go off of, she definitely thinks it's spiritual. This is a paranormal podcast. It sounds spiritual. The idea of her opening the door. See, this type of stuff when I talk about on this podcast all the time, psychic landmines. What's creepy is she didn't ask for any of this. She was walking down the street and a psychic came up to her and started revealing these things and really proving to Tracy that psychics existed. I don't know if the psychic was in on it. I don't know. But imagine if you were a skeptic. You spent your whole life going, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in angels, I don't believe in psychics, nothing like that. And then you were given pretty good proof, at least proof that you believed that this phenomenon was real. A couple weeks later, you unknowingly open your back door. And what I imagine that is like she just thought it was a friend out there. She opened the back door and she let whatever was outside in. Just like you can open up your heart or your mind to dark spirits, she physically opened up a door and she invited a spirit in. First off, how are you ever supposed to protect yourself from that? That's terrifying in and of itself. It wasn't like she looked out the window and saw a gremlin. It's not like she looked out the window and saw the devil dancing with a pitchfork and cloven hooves, and you look at it and go, that's obviously the devil. From a cartoon, sure, yeah, it's not what the devil actually looks like, but it's what people think the devil looks like. So, if I open this door, the devil may come into my house. So I'm going to make a choice to not open it. Or you make a choice to open it. And when the devil comes in, you have no one to blame but yourself. But that's not what she saw. She saw a guy that she thought was one of her boyfriend's friends. And she did the polite thing. She opened the door, and what she really did was invite this spirit in. And that's why I was laughing at her. What I think's interesting, too, I got a lot of stuff to say, but I don't want to drone on and on, is that I've had a lot of paranormal experiences. I know a lot of you guys have had them as well. Tracy was having some very interesting physical reactions to these things. Both the psychic and the man in the backyard caused her body to freeze up. And that's not normal there's nothing really normal in the world of the paranormal. There's that fight, flight, or freeze response. And it seems like her body's having that freeze response. And I wonder if that makes you particularly susceptible to the paranormal. I don't know, just a thought that popped in my head, but the first time she had to be led away from the psychic. Second time, she physically couldn't move. She crumpled to the ground. She crawled away. But, I mean, she did nothing wrong. She didn't want any of this. She didn't want any of this. She didn't go to a burned out church with a Ouija board and start talking to some random spirit that was pretending to be someone else and they messed around with it. Nothing. She was walking down the street, and then a couple weeks later she opened her back door. And for 15 years she's been in extreme pain and, on top of that, emotional turmoil. And the fact that she goes into the churches and she starts sobbing, that to me makes me think that that is what she needs to do. Not the crying part, but she needs to talk to a minister. She needs to talk to a spiritual leader. The sobbing is it's the same thing when you have an allergic reaction to, like, well, maybe not allergic reaction, that might actually kill you, but you get a splinter in your finger. Eventually your body's going to work the splinter out, but it's going to get pussy and sore and all that stuff for a while. It's going to be uncomfortable. She's the sliver. And she's in this church and she's having basically an allergic reaction. She's a unwelcome, not her, not Tracy herself, but this spirit that's attached to her. It's unwelcome in this holy place. And it's trying to make Tracy feel like the pus. It's trying to make Tracy feel sore, hoping okay, maybe the analogy doesn't work, but anyways, my point is that she's having the reaction to make her leave the church when really she needs to stay. She's the pussy finger and the demon's the splinter. And maybe now it works, but she needs to stay and she needs to talk to a minister, a spiritual advisor, to get this handled. Doesn't matter if you don't believe in the paranormal. The paranormal can still attach itself to you. Doesn't matter if you don't go looking for it. Doesn't matter if you have no interest in it. Sometimes it seems so random, it's just downright terrifying. Imagine if you went fishing down by the river once a month for 12 years, and then one day your fishing line gets tangled around a discarded hand grenade. You end up blowing your face off. People can't say, well, you shouldn't have been down there. Didn't you know there were grenades in the water? And you're like, no, I never ever figured there would be grenades in the water. I never believed that that was even possible. I never thought when I cast my line into the river that it could, in 1,000 years, attach itself to a live grenade and blow my face off. But in the world of the paranormal, we see that happen time and time again. It happened on yesterday's story. It happened in this story. It happens all the time. All the time. And it's weird when you think about all of the Bigfoot hunters out there and all the UFO hunters out there and all the paranormal investigators out there. But so many of these stories involve people who say, I don't believe in any of this stuff. Very, very interesting part of the phenomenon is that it seems to target people who don't believe in it. And I'm not saying because if you don't believe in God that a demon's more likely to attach itself to you. That statement may be true. But we see it with aliens and cryptids and all sorts of things. It seems like the paranormal world not only doesn't care whether or not you believe in it, it enjoys exposing itself to people who don't believe in it. You have to wonder if there is some sort of overriding consciousness to it all that makes it work this way. That's a high-level philosophy weird thing we can think about for sure, but Tracy's going through it for real. And so are thousands of other people around the world experiencing these paranormal events they never asked for. Life-changing, life-ruining paranormal events. Tracy never believed in ghosts or spirits, but it didn't matter. All she did was open her door one night, unknowingly letting in a dark demon, an evil spirit that has tortured her every day for the past 15 years. And unless Tracy is able to find a way to stop it, It'll haunt her for the rest of her life. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be your email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Hopefully you guys come out to the live stream, but if not,